All right, guys, this is going to be the lesson for Chapter 9, Section 6 on the quadratic formula. You remember that the quadratic formula we did together using completing the square. It doesn't matter how it comes about, though. X is equal to negative of b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. You're not even going to have to memorize that because in this particular case, you're going to be able to use your notes for a test. Try to get this out of the corner. It does not want to go. There we go. All right. So let's do a problem. I'll do the one in the book as an example. X squared minus 8 equals 2x. Okay, so the first thing we should notice, it's not in descending order equal to 0. So we have to subtract the 2x to the left, and you should get x squared minus 2x minus 8 equals 0. Now we've got a, b, and c. A equals 1, b equals a negative 2, and c equals a negative 8. So we're going to plug those in to x equals a negative of my negative 2, which is my b, plus or minus the square root of b squared. Well, that's a negative 2 again. Let me erase that because I started to write a b. Negative 2 squared minus 4 times my a of 1 times my c of negative 8. All of that divided by 2 times my a of 1. Now, all the quadratic formula is PEMDAS, guys. You just have to take all those numbers that we've just written down and just start narrowing it down to a final answer. Here's the steps. X is equal to a positive 2 now because a negative of negative 2 is a positive 2, plus or minus the square root of negative 2 squared is 4. There's the first potential mistake. When you square a negative, you should get a positive. And this is the single most important point. What is a negative 4 times a positive 1 times a negative 8? It has to be a positive number because a negative times a negative is positive. 4 times 8 is 32. All of that divided by 2. So x is equal to 2 plus or minus the square root of 36 divided by 2. Or x is equal to 2 plus or minus 6 divided by 2. And that plus or minus is how we get our two answers. Remember, something squared means I should have two answers. Well, let's break it down and divide last. Guys, let's do the 2 plus 6 first. 2 plus 6 is 8. 8 divided by 2 is 4. And then you've got 2 minus 6. 2 minus 6 is negative 4. Negative 4 divided by 2 is negative 2. There are my two answers. You could plug them in and check them if you wanted to. So we got nice, neat answers on this one. All that means is it was factorable. And because it was factorable, we got those nice integer answers. Sometimes that'll happen, but a lot of times you're going to get something that's not factorable. You're going to get an irrational answer with a bunch of decimals. So let's do a problem like that so you'll have a good example in front of you. Again, the steps are the same. You're just going to have to be a little bit better about using your calculator and being careful. So let me erase the rest of this real quick. All right, the next problem that we're going to do is, let me find it, 6x squared plus 9x minus 32 equals 0. That's an x there. All right, now that's a 9. I didn't make that obvious. This one's already in standard form. My a, my b, and my c are already recognizable. A is 6, b is 9, and c equals that negative 32. Okay? So x equals the negative of my b, which is this case, in this case is a positive 9, plus or minus the square root of that same 9 squared minus 4 times my a of 6 times my c of negative 32. All of that is over 2a, or 2 times 6. All right, so let's start narrowing things down. From here, it's just PEMDAS. X is equal to negative 9 plus or minus the square root of. My 9 squared is 81. And again, this is the single most important part, is what sign comes after that 81. It's not always going to be a minus. In this case, we have negative 4 times 6 times negative 32. A negative times a negative is a positive. And then we just need to pull out a calculator and use our calculator to figure out what 4 times 6 times 32 is. We've already figured out that the sign is positive, so it's plus a 768. All of that is divided by 12. So 768 plus 81 is equal to 849. So here's this. X is equal to negative 9 plus or minus the square root of 849 divided by 12. At this point, guys, it becomes a calculator problem. Okay? You've got to be able to take that negative 9 plus or minus the square root of 849 divided by 12 and just figure out how to punch it in. So please listen carefully. The first thing that you do is you take the negative sign on the bottom of your calculator and do negative 9, and we're going to go across the top first. Negative 9 plus the square root of 849. Sorry, my calculator got a little bit mixed up there. Negative 9 plus the second x squared, which is square root of 849. Hit enter, and you should get 20.1376. But don't forget, divide by 12 now. So the last step is division by 12, and you should get, the first answer is 1.678. We'll always round to 3 decimal places. Okay? Now let's do the minus, because there's a plus minus there. So now we've got negative 9 minus the square root of 849. And I get negative 38.1376. Divide that by 12. Simplify to the closest 3 decimal places, and you get negative 3.178. Now you'll have to go by whatever MathXL tells you. If they want you to go that much, they'll tell you 3 decimal places, maybe 2. Just please read the directions and don't just start throwing in answers without reading how they want the answers done. But that shows you how to find inexact answers. And that right there is the reason why the quadratic formula is so important. Most equations that are quadratic in nature in real life do not get nice integer answers. They're estimated answers. Okay. And so, guys, you're going to use the quadratic formula whenever you've got an inexact answer. That's the best bet to find the answers. Some of you may even like it to find exact answers, but I'll leave that up to you depending upon how the question is asked. You just need to practice it for now. Now, we also have something in this section called the discriminant. The discriminant is just the part underneath the square root sign, b squared minus 4ac. Well, if you just take out the discriminant and look at what's remaining, do you see the AOS? Negative b over 2a. So if you take out the plus or minus, you've either got the discriminant there, this is the discriminant, or you've got the AOS, which we use for graphing. You can see it's all in there. Well, the discriminant is used for only three things. You plug it in, but you do not use the square root. You just look at the number without taking the square root. So b squared minus 4ac is the discriminant there. And you see what the answer is. If your answer is positive, if your discriminant is positive, that means you have two real solutions or roots. Two real roots. Remember, the solutions can be called solutions, roots, or answers. If you get a 0, well, that means that the discriminant is a special type of quadratic formula that has one real answer or root. Okay, those are perfect square trinomials. And then sometimes you get a discriminant inside that square root sign that's negative. Do you know how to take the square root of a negative number? No. And so this is no real roots. We don't even do solving of those. Goodness, I cannot write with this thing today. You don't even solve those until Algebra 2 because we teach you how to deal with negative things. That said, we're not going to do a whole lot with the discriminant right now. I'm going to focus you in on just solving it. I wanted those in some of your notes, so you might add them into your notes. This little chart that I've just added, let me check on time left. Looks like we're doing good at a little under 12 minutes. That gives you two examples, one easier with nice, neat answers and one harder with irrational answers. Your worksheet is already online. I'll attach this to it, and hopefully everybody will remember how to use the quadratic formula. And that's going to be it for this test. You'll also notice later this week I'll put up a review for the test. We'll take the test early next week sometime. Talk to you soon.